So good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Anamkara Thursday night meditation program. And thank you so much for coming. With all my heart and with all my love, I welcome you to our program tonight, wherever you might be, from my living room to your living room. So great to be able to get together and have this time, a unique time, in the sense that, there's so many things in the world that are talking to us about who we are, reflecting various aspects of who we are. But it's who we are as a limited being. It's sometimes called the false self, the limited self, the conventional self. And so we also need the things that reflect back to us the truth of who we are. And that's what satsang is about. Sat is the truth, that which is the same in all places at all times. Sangha, the gathering. So a time to be in the company of each other and have reflected back to us that our true nature is the divine. That's the fullness of who we are. It includes the mind, the body, and all those things, but isn't limited to that. Whereas ordinary awareness has us limited to thinking that's all we are. So to be able to do practices in various places and times that really includes that sacred vision of the fullness of our being, that's satsang. So thank you for coming and bringing the fullness of your being, the truth of who you are, your commitment to the practices, and coming here this evening. So tonight is the fourth Thursday of the month. And so tonight is a time when we typically would do the Heart Sutra, Buddhist practice, and the Heart Sutra as a way of, really experiencing, invoking, and going into that silent essence of who we are beyond the mind. So we'll get into that practice. And we're going to begin with the opening mantras. And, we make a lot of use of mantra as a practice, and various mantras and empowered mantras from traditions I've been a part of. And in part because it's also been written in the yogic text and Buddhist text that this age, one of the most important practices is mantra, because it's literally a throb of the infinite that we can take hold of any time, any place. And because we're so identified with the mind and thoughts and all the verbiage that runs through the mind, mantra takes a subtle form of words, but totally different, because mantra arises from the infinite, not the mind. Most of our language and thoughts and everything, it's all mind-born. So it keeps us within the domain of the mind. Mantra arises from beyond the mind. So when we can get absorbed in that, then we too have access to the fullness of being beyond the mind. So we'll start with the opening mantras. Shri Mata Kali Devi Ki Jai Gajananam Bhutanganari Sevitam Kapita Jumbo Palacharu Bhakshanam Umasutam Shokaminashakarakam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Shri Ganeshaya Namaha Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Shishate Shanti. Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai. So once again, with all my heart, I welcome you to our program this evening. You know, the opening mantras start with a mantra, Shri Mata Kali Mahadevi Ki Jai, and it's an invocation of the Great Mother, of Ma Kali. And Kali is seen as the one who gives birth to all sound. All mantras arise from her. And so we are invoking her and then invoking the gifts of mantra that come through her. All as a way of coming back to the truth of who and what we are. And so tonight, because we'll be doing the Heart Sutra, and the Heart Sutra is a great text and closes with a mantra, a Sanskrit mantra, Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha. And that is, the Sanskrit is gone beyond, completely beyond. Hail the goer, the Bodhi, the enlightened one. So mote it be, Swaha. And the text of the Heart Sutra is really Buddha giving an explication of his vision deep in meditation. So Prajnaparamita is the highest wisdom state, beyond thought. Often thought of as the void, because to the mind it's the void of all the ordinary things of the mind. But it is this state of boundless wisdom, clarity of awareness, unbounded, uncaught by the mind and all the things that arise in the mind. It really is a practice that is literally done continuously around the world. I mean, it's so beloved by the Buddhist tradition that there's never a time on earth when that's not being chanted for the benefit of all beings. You know, part of the ground of practice is, and especially in the Buddhist tradition, is we're not doing it just for ourselves. We're not just trying to get free just so that I can be free. We're getting free in order to help all beings become free of suffering. And that was Buddha's quest, to find a way to get through and past all suffering, to get free of all suffering. And as he did intense practices and finally opened up that state, then he spent the rest of his life trying to pass on the different means, the ways for people to be able to enter that state and discover it for themselves and unfold it in its completeness. And what's always been a part of the motivation behind those practices is that unselfish commitment that is out of love and compassion for all beings. We want to really perfect this state, open the fullness of our own sublime nature so that we can walk that into the world. We bring that love, that compassion. It's the reason why we have a human birth, ultimately. It's to know that and then serve, live that into the world. And so the Heart Sutra is a powerful practice for invoking that. And as a text, because the first part is a text, it's showing that, you know, you're not the mind, the body, all these things. It's often described as an example of what's known as the via negativa, the negative way. In other words, how do you discover what is? You negate all that it isn't. It's very similar to Advaita Vedanta, the non-dual Vedanta, in self-inquiry, when you might ask, who am I? And then whatever arises, it's not this, not this, not this, neti, 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 not this. You're none of those things. And it's the medicine for the mind. Because all day long, what is the mind doing? It's identifying with things. It's identifying with a thought, a feeling. It's identifying with, a relationship. It's identifying with being the opposite of somebody else or the same as somebody else. I mean, it's constantly in this process of identifying and becoming what it's identified with. And so the great non-dual traditions, Advaita Vedanta, Buddhist practice, is about realizing that that's the nature of the mind, and it's an instrument for knowing limitations. But consciousness, consciousness, that is beyond the mind. The mind is like a little ray of that. It's like there's a ray comes from the sun, but the sun, that luminous presence, that's your Buddha nature. That's your divine self. That's the infinitude of who you are. Coming home to that is what all the practices endeavor to give us. Come home to yourself. And then discover it's not just this boundless consciousness. That boundless consciousness is indivisible from boundless wisdom, boundless love, boundless compassion, unshakable equanimity. That quality of consciousness is all of those simultaneously. Right? Words have to give them a different word for each one, because words are the mind. The mind is divisive. The mind separates things that aren't separate, and then winds up in the quandary of, how do I put it back together? It was the mind that split it up. Go beyond the mind, there is no differentiation there. It's all that one, all loving compassion, all wisdom and grace. That's the essence. So we do the practices to know that directly. And so the Heart Sutra is a way of invoking that. And the traditional way of doing the Heart Sutra, which is known as the Bhagavati Maha Prajnaparamita Hrdaya Sutra, all right? That's the Sanskrit name. It really means the great goddess, mother of all Buddhists, the Heart Sutra of transcendental wisdom. The great goddess. The great goddess. This is her. This is the mother of all Buddhas. Who's the mother of all Buddhas? Bhagavati, the great mother, the goddess. We can call her Tara, Kuan Yin. We can call her Kali. Last week we chanted all these different names of the Great Mother, the one who gives birth to all of this. Gives birth to bondage as well, and then gives birth to the means for knowing freedom. So we take refuge in that. And you'll see as we go through this text, and the classic way is we chant it together, just in English, out loud, and which is really like reading it out loud 3 times through. And then it ends with the Sanskrit mantra of Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi, Swaha. That's sort of the heart essence of the Heart Sutra. Even doing that mantra, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi, Swaha, during the day, in a sense, you're invoking the full power of the entire Heart Sutra. And it's also interesting, there's a bit at the end that is directed at the ordinary mind, right? So at the very end, it says, therefore know that the Prajnaparamita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra, set forth this mantra and say, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. That paragraph about it being the supreme mantra, again, that's like medicine for the ordinary mind. Because what does the ordinary mind do? It makes things ordinary. It goes, oh, another set of words, another set of text, it's just this, it's just that. That's how it approaches mantra. People say, oh, mantra, it's so repetitive. It's like a broken record. It just goes over and over and over again. That's the ordinary mind making this sublime throb of the infinite that as we repeat it over and over is washing through the mind, helping to dissolve all the samskaras, all the patterns that bind us to identification with the mind and the body. That each repetition is like a wave of grace. How dare the mind make it ordinary, like a broken record or just a repetition? That's not what it is. It's we repeat it to be bathed in it, to have it wash through every aspect of our mind and body, so that they all then participate in that throb of the infinite that is mantra. And so this last paragraph is kind of aimed at the ordinary mind, like, no, this is the real thing. This is the great mantra, the supreme mantra. You could say that about Om Kalimaya. You could say that about Om Namah Shivaya. You could say that about any of the Maha mantras, the great mantras. And that's part of the task of the ordinary mind, is to hold that awareness. This is not just another set of words. This is not just another thing that it's reading, like it read the newspaper today or a magazine or some other thing. No, this is a gift of the infinite to the infinite. A gift from the infinite to the infinite. You're the infinite that's being given this, but you don't know that yet. Or maybe you know it sometimes. And then mantra helps to stabilize that knowing by immersing our awareness in it over and over and over and over again. So we're going to do the Heart Sutra now. And we're going to say it out loud 3 times through. And then at the end, we do the Gate, Gate, Parasam Gate. We do that with a drum repeatedly until it gets a little faster. And then it just stops. And we just rest in the stillness. We rest in the stillness that Buddha is talking about. Because when he entered that deep state of Prajnaparamita, that supreme wisdom state of absolute stillness, from there he could see that all the stuff that arises in consciousness are just these 5 skandhas, just these 5 lumps of things. Sense perceptions, the limited consciousness of the mind. It's just those things. They're not who you are. And so at the end, we enter that state. And no matter what arises, we're just watching it. It's not you. Just the stuff arising in that field of awareness. But remain open to the spaciousness, the infinitude of being that is that awareness. That's what the Heart Sutra brings us home to. That's what Buddha's gift was 2,500 years ago and continues to this day. So here we begin. Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, coursing through deep Prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. Sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without gain, without loss. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought. No realm of sight to no realm of thought, no ignorance and also no ending of ignorance, to no old age and death, also no ending of old age and death. No suffering, and also no source of suffering. No annihilation, no path. No wisdom, also no attainment. Having nothing to attain, bodhisattvas live Prajnaparamita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, thus no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, they attain complete nirvana. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, live Prajnaparamita and thus attain Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore, set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, coursing through deep Prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. Sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without gain, without loss. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought. No realm of sight to no realm of thought. No ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance to no old age and death. Also no ending of old age and death. No suffering, also no source of suffering. No annihilation, no path. No wisdom, also no attainment. Having nothing to attain, bodhisattvas live Prajnaparamita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, thus no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, they attain complete nirvana. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, live Prajnaparamita and thus attain Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, coursing through deep Prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. Sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness are also like this. Shariputra, all things are marked by emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without gain, without loss. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, thought, impulse, consciousness. No eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind. No color, sound, smell, taste, touch, object of thought. No realm of sight to no realm of thought. No ignorance, and also no ending of ignorance to no old age and death, and also no ending of old age and death. No suffering, and also no source of suffering. No annihilation, no path. No wisdom, also no attainment. Having nothing to attain, bodhisattvas live Prajnaparamita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, thus no fear. Far beyond delusive thinking, they attain complete nirvana. All Buddhas, past, present, and future, live Prajnaparamita and thus attain Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi. Therefore know that Prajnaparamita is the great mantra, the wisdom mantra, the unsurpassed mantra, the supreme mantra, which completely removes all suffering. This is truth, not deception. Therefore set forth the Prajnaparamita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhi Swaha. Ngate ngate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi swaha. Coursing through the Prajnaparamita. You see, from that state of the witness, just the expansiveness of being, consciousness. Things arise. They have no substance. They're empty. They're impermanent. They come and go and come and go. Think of emptiness as that impermanence. Things just arising and subsiding, coming and going. All held in that boundless spaciousness of awareness being. So the Heart Sutra helps to invoke that, so we get beyond the mind that's identified with all of those things. And then in that state we come to know that. We dissolve our identification into that ocean of awareness. That's where we then can experience also the boundlessness of compassion and love that embraces all, reaches out to all beings. That's Tara. That's the face of Tara. So Tara is the feminine face of the compassionate one, Buddha, your highest nature. So Tara is the one that says, yeah, none of this exists, but you're caught in the web of this illusion. It's like you're in a bad dream. Let me leap forward to help free you from that. Let me bring that love and compassion into the world to help set you free. And then you can bring that love and compassion into your sphere and help others to become free. So Tara is this feminine face of the infinite, of Buddha, and leaps forward to remove suffering. And so that great Tara mantra, Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha, Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha, a mantra that can be used to invoke any of the facets of Tara, the 21 different Taras. These are all things that the mind gets caught up in, right? Not Tara. There's one Tara. There's one Buddha consciousness. There's only one. So this diffraction, this seeming differences, that's the play of the mind. And so the infinite goes, okay, I'll enter this play with you, but to take you home. So we want to engage in Tara with all that love and that compassion, and the love and compassion for all beings. So we're going to be chanting the Tara mantra. We're going to be chanting Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. And it's an invocation of our boundless loving compassion that embraces all who are suffering, whether they know they're suffering or not. People are so often bound by ignorance so deeply that they're not even aware that it's their own ignorance keeping them in that state of suffering. The grace of the infinite reaches out to all. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. So we start with that, in a sense, invoking that loving compassion for our own mind that may be caught in that, because your Buddha nature, your true nature is not caught, but we have love and compassion for this mind as well as all other minds. And Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha is a way of really bestowing grace on all. So even as we're chanting that or repeating it silently in meditation or during the day, we can envision that just waves of grace washing through us, washing through the world, washing over all beings to help relieve them of suffering, the suffering of ignorance, the suffering of disease, the suffering of poverty, the suffering of attachment to wealth and power, all these different forms of suffering that need to be dissolved for people to become free. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. Oh Tarama, relieve all of their suffering, no matter what form that suffering may be. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. A throb. She's a throb of your sweet, loving nature. So as we chant that, we're putting that out into the world. As we chant that, we're having that vibration run through our body, all the way down into our bones. We have it running through the mind. Let it transform any place where there's bondage, where there's suffering. Set it all free. Set it all. So we'll chant now. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. 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 I'm taking refuge in the boundless love, the boundless compassion, the boundless wisdom, the boundless equanimity, the true nature, the Buddha nature, the Tare nature. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. Ture Soha. Om Tare Tuttare 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 Ture Soha. So we end with this prayer, and may all our practices truly benefit everyone, and may all beings know complete freedom from suffering. And namaste. Om Tare Tuttare Ture Soha. An invocation of your such a sublime, loving nature, your boundless love, your boundless compassion. Unimpeded, the power of that Tara who leaps into the world to remove suffering. That your heart leaps up in compassion for all. Unrestrained by the mind, a boundless love. So the practices empower us to walk that into the world, to be free of the mind that contracts us, that binds us, that distracts us. To come home to the truth of your infinite, loving, patient, kind, compassionate nature. Bring that into the world. So come back to mantra, come back to yourself in the many ways that we're given to be able to do that. Mantra being a particularly powerful way of doing that. All day, all night, you fall asleep repeating mantra, wake up repeating mantra, till life becomes enveloped in that. Till we perceive the truth of that. The throb of the infinite, pervading every moment. And everything arises from that throb, that pulsation, that vibration, creates all forms. And dissolves the veil so that we can see that. It's not just a theory, it's not a nice philosophy, it's not a nice ancient text. It's our living experience, moment by moment. That's your birthright. That's your birthright. Regardless of what our culture tells us, our family tells us, this one tells us, the truth is you are this divine being. Your heart is an ocean of love. There's enough love in just your heart to drown the world. Look at the impact that great beings who have come to know that have had, just with their heart open to the fullness of the infinite, whether it was Buddha, whether it was Christ, whether it was a sage, a saint, might have been your great aunt. Not about fame, not about being known, not about doing much. It's about loving much. To remember, mantra, it's a throb of love. Chanting mantra is a love song. The infinite to the infinite. The delight in the divine embrace. And you have the capacity to know that fully and bring that into the world, moment by moment, breath by breath, heartbeat by heartbeat. Keep coming back to that. So we've come to the end of this evening, and I want to thank you for coming, for bringing your sublime, boundlessly divine self to our program this evening, and sharing that with the world, sharing the power of your practices, the power of your intention to know that, to live that, and to keep coming back to that, to let it infuse every moment, every relationship, everything. With that wisdom, that knowing, that love. So thank you. Thank you. And also thank you for the many ways that you help support Anamkara, sharing our e-newsletter and our YouTube videos, and your gracious donations to help keep our work going. So thank you with all my love. Thank you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a blessed week.